Hey everybody, I just wanted to do a quick review on one of my top 10 favorite early slasher horrors, Silent Scream. I love this movie a lot. Um, I remembered seeing the Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert Women in Peril episode, which I actually have two of the three parts on my YouTube channel under Horror Haters or Siskel and Ebert Horror Haters. I remembered seeing that segment as it aired originally on television way back when, and they were just bashing horror films that were coming out. Maniac, Silent Scream, um, When a Stranger Calls, all these movies. They just said that they were anti-women, and they had special venom for this film, Silent Scream, if I remember correctly. They just really hated it, and the film clips that they showed really made it look like it was a misogynistic film. But in actuality, there are more male victims in this movie than female victims. So you can't say that this is a misogynistic film. Um, I successfully was able to sneak into this movie I think I saw it at the Aptos Twin back in California. Um, and it was actually able to, I think I scrunched down in the seats just enough to where they couldn't see me. Of course, I wasn't very big back then. I was like 12 or, yeah, I think it was about 12. And just kind of hid when the ticket checkers used to come through the theater with their little flashlights and whatever. I just kind of ducked down. And I just remember this movie scaring the bejesus out of me. And I just really, really enjoyed it. Basically, it's a fairly thin story. A young gal played by Rebecca Balding goes to her first day to register at her university, but neglecting to have secured housing on campus earlier, is then forced to find housing in the coastal California town where the university is located. There's a fun little montage of her going to different locations trying to find housing, and then it's either she's turned away because of jealous wives or because she's dressed kind of sexy for when this was filmed, which was actually filmed in 1979. Um, uh, and she finally stumbles across a room for rent in this beautiful yet spooky mansion sitting up on the cliffs overlooking the Pacific Ocean. And it's really funny because they date themselves really badly when the landlord, who is the son of the mother who owns the house, when he shows her the room, she asks how much, and I think he says $50 a month, and she shirks at that. She's like, "Whoa, like that's way too much, way too rich for my blood," or something. And it's just hilarious because I think even back then, $50 for a room a month in a house on a cliff overlooking the Pacific Ocean would have been the deal of the century. So I just think it's really funny. But anyway, she then moves in and befriends the other young tenants in the house, all of which are college students as well. I think there's 4 altogether, plus the weird, oddball, kind of dorky son of the mother who never leaves her room upstairs, who's actually played by Yvonne DiCarlo, who was Lily Munster. Rest in peace. She's always been one of my favorite actresses. Um, but yeah, and then you slowly start to realize that there is somebody else in the house who is watching them and listening to them through vents, and you hear mysterious music coming from the attic, and Rebecca Balding at one point goes up into the attic to put a suitcase away, and she hears music, faint 50s kind of crooning music coming from the other side of the doorway, this dark door in this dark attic. And she tries to open the door like an idiot. I mean, like, who does that? If I was up in a creepy attic like that and I heard some weird, scratchy record playing on the other side, the last thing that I would do would be to try to open the door. But alas, it's locked. so she is forced to just leave it alone, which is probably one of the reasons why she, okay, spoiler alert, in case you haven't seen it, which is why she survived at the end. Um, but slowly but surely, the young folk get killed off one by one, as they do in all these types of films. And in semi-creative ways, there's not really any blood. I know the one killing of the one gal in the basement actually scared me really bad when I first saw it. It just really made it's a good jump scare. And there's I think most of the fear that comes from that movie is kind of a slow building fear that is just based on the atmosphere of the house and the environment that they're in. Overall, the gore is almost non-existent. There's some nudity, very little. There's a very unsexy sex scene. Of course, these things don't make a film, but they were pretty mandatory back in the day to make sure that you secured an R rating, which is probably the only reason why this movie had an R rating, was because of the nudity and the sex, excuse me. Because, like I said, the gore is minimal, but it's a very, very effective little fright film. Some of the other people that are in it is Brad Bearden, Steve Dubay, Barbara Steele, who of course is one of the original Scream Queens, Avery Schreiber, and Cameron Mitchell. Now, Cameron Mitchell has been in such a vast collection of really bad films that if I see his movie on the, or if I see his name on the actors list for a film, my expectations for that film tend to drop, which I know is kind of mean-spirited to say, but it's based on experience. And even though his acting is just as below par in this film as it is in most, you know, his limited involvement makes it okay. Because there's actually pretty decent acting in this film. Most of the other tenants, you know, they get along and they're actually quite believable. Especially there was Rebecca Balding, and then the other girl that was renting there. For some reason, her acting to me seemed very, very natural. And she was a little bit on the chunky side, and you know, cute and bubbly and whatever. But her acting was actually fairly decent. And for that reason, when she is dispatched, I felt actually kind of bad. But yeah, so Silent Scream. If you haven't seen it, then I recommend that you go ahead and pick it up, give it a spin, and enjoy it. Until later.